This episode of Linux Action Show is brought to you by GoDaddy.com.
And by Ting.com. Head over to last.ting.com and save $25 off your first device.
Welcome to Linux Action Show, Season 30, Episode 9. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Hey, Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, so Matt's stuck in the snow this week, but Matt, that will not stop us from having a big show. Are you ready for me to tell people all about it?
Been looking forward to it all week.
Okay, sir. Well, coming up, I have too, because we're going to be chatting with the creator of the YaCy search project. You know that search project that's peer-to-peer and decentralized that you can install your very own search engine on your Linux box? Well, we're going to bring on Martin Christen from that project, or Michael Christen, actually, from that project to chat with us about his goals and visions and what the future holds for the YaCy search project. And then in the news segment, we'll talk about who's actually building Linux, and then we'll look at some big news for the Docker project. And then in this feedback segment, we're going to give a little shout out to the YaLophone. A big festival is coming up that all of you guys are going to want to know about. But first, Matt, as always, it is our picks this week.
Woo.
Now, you know I have kids.
Yes.
And I'm always interested where Linux and my kids' lives intersect when I didn't even realize it. And this one was making the rounds today. I don't know if they just put some videos up on YouTube or what, but James Mason, as well as some others from our community, noticed that the crew of Despicable Me 2, the recent kids movie, runs Linux. He has a snapshot right
so
here.
Awesome.
The production crew using Blender to design some of the characters for Despicable Me 2. Now, Martin, one of the main developers of the Kwin project, or the main developer of the Kwin project, he also spotted a separate shot, and he also noticed that, hey, this is open source. So you can see, if you look really carefully, the lizard down there in the corner. You can see the KDE Plasma taskbar down here. So he says, I was just watching the extras on Despicable Me 2, the Blu-ray, and he says you can see the Gecko logo and the Plasma logo. And he just took a shot of it with his camera phone, but pretty cool. So I did some digging, and the KDE project recently ran a story yesterday, actually, technically this morning, about KDE's use in video productions. And here is an interview with one of the VFX shops that worked on the movie Gravity, the recent George Clooney movie. And you can see in these shots, they also are using KDE Plasma Workspace. They're called Framestore. They worked for several years to provide the majority of the film's effect shots, and the London-based offices appear filled to the brim with workstations running KDE Plasma. Interestingly, Framestore isn't the only London-based VFX house using KDE software. You can see we have links in here to previous snapshots of the Doctor Who VFX workshop uses Plasma Desktop, and also the Mill. One factor driving this adoption is perhaps the synergy between the industry's extensive use of Qt. Many high-end 3D modeling and video compositing packages now use Qt for their UI and often provide Python Qt as a convenient extensibility solution for in-house dev teams in studios. So they're using KDE because it works so perfectly with their existing tool set.
That's really exciting because, a lot of people say, well, Linux has no place in movie development, and I think that's beginning to change.
You got to have a Mac, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
and it's beginning to evolve.
It's actually interesting when you get into the really serious shops. See, we're actually stuck in the sucky middle because on the low end, like for just real basic audio production, Linux rocks. And there's even some if you want to get basic video production done, you can, right? And it can do a decent job. And then at the high end, you have all these custom solutions and all this really cool, awesome stuff that like the really big movies are using. But right here in the middle, for us independent content creators, it's a little sucky.
Right,
it's a little
exactly. Because the movie folks can go Cinepaint, they can go Blender, they can use these tools, but they still need, and of course now even with the new editor that's recently released to the masses, that's great, but it's still not quite there yet.
Yeah, I loaded up. Speaking of which, I loaded up Lightworks on the Archbox this last week. I've got it installed now. I think it's 11.5 is the latest stable version, and they now have it available for Arch. It's in the Arch user repo as LWKS is the package name. And it's installed no problem, and it no longer requires the Ubuntu FFmpeg patched version of FFmpeg, so you can just load it right on there without having to swap out FFmpeg on your machine, which is great. Makes it a lot more portable. So Lightworks is officially stable for Linux now. It's still missing some features, but I'm already playing with it, just kind of taking my time, learning it, understanding its curves and all those kinds of things, because it can be a little bit of an oddball. Lightworks is very much an old school editor. So,
Oh yeah, it is, and it's actually been responsible for. It's actually helped to work on specific movies, but as you said, it's old school, and it's going to take some time to see where it develops.
Yeah, and for my workload, I kind of prefer some of the more modern editing environments that were designed for online, weren't necessarily meant for tape, and all those kinds of things. But we keep watching it. There's lots of projects out there. Matt, I have a super, super cool desktop pick, especially for any of you geeks out there that want to monitor a computer in your house from a different, separate computer, check out its performance and all those kinds of things. So before we get into that, I want to say a special thank you to our sponsor this week, GoDaddy.com. Now, you guys know GoDaddy loves themselves the Super Bowl, right? I mean, that's kind of like GoDaddy's Christmas in a way. They're just like
That's
celebrate.
awesome.
They celebrate with and they always give us a great discount code. And this is a limited time offering. You guys can take advantage of our code Go32OFF2. Go32OFF2 is going to get you 32% off anything in your shopping cart. Now, if you want to get some domains, do it. If you want to get some hosting, you can. The thing is as long as it's a new item, it's yours, son. You can get it. You can buy it. Now, you guys might have caught. Now, Matt, I know you don't watch the sports ball, do you? You don't. Do you watch the commercials?
I love the commercials.
Okay.
I mean, that's like the go-to thing. That and the Puppy Bowl and all the other little off spins.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know if you caught. Did you catch this? One of the things GoDaddy did is they kind of changed up their whole Super Bowl approach this year, and they had some people quit out during the Super Bowl their jobs and launch their own small businesses, which is really neat. And one of those people was Gwen, and Gwen actually sent us in an audio clip. Check it out.
Hi, my name is Gwen. I'm a GoDaddy customer and spokesperson. GoDaddy helped me launch my new puppet business. They have everything you need to put your business online, find new customers, and kick ass. Get started by registering a domain name and creating your website with GoDaddy's easy-to-use website builder. Already have a site? Keep it running fast with GoDaddy Web Hosting. It's go time. Visit GoDaddy.com, enter promo code Go32OFF2, and save 32% on your new purchases. Some limitations apply. See website for details.
That's pretty awesome. So thank you to Gwen for sending that in to us. And go over to the GoDaddy website. Use the promo code Go32OFF2, number 2, because first the worst, second the best, right? Number Go32OFF2, 32% off anything new. It's a limited time Super Bowl offer, and probably won't have anything that deep of a discount for a while, so go take advantage of it. And a big thank you to GoDaddy for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. Okay, Matt, let me tell you about Server Monitor Dashboard. It might not be the actual name of it. I think it's just called Server Monitor, but I think of it, it really is. It is a dashboard. Now, I've got a link to the GitHub. It's really simple to set up. You guys are going to love this. So here, I'll give you a demo of it, but first let me show you the GitHub page. Here's the installation process. You need to have Apache installed on your computer, and you need to have PHP 5-curl installed and enabled. Once you have those things turned on, you just download the zip page or the zip package from the GitHub page, place it in your var www or wherever your Apache document root is, and then if you can secure it with htaccess if you want. But once you have it installed, it'll take care of the rest for you. All of the PHP stuff automatically sets up, configures itself, and generates you a real-time dashboard for your machine. So I have it on. I have several servers in my house, and one of them is an Ubuntu 12.10 machine. And I have this running here on the Ubuntu 12.10 machine right now. I get a snapshot of my file systems. I get a snapshot of my logged-in users, my IP addresses, my total memory used. I can jump to network traffic. I get all of this stuff right away. So, like, if I notice, hey, man, my server is performing like dog poo, I can jump in here and I can see all of the processes here, and I can see, all right, well, my top process right now is smoke ping. And then the Tor network, well, what's this doing? Why is the Tor network taking a bunch of resources? What's going on there? And I could go investigate that, right? And try to get to the bottom of that shenanigans. Yeah. And if somebody was logged in right now and had a shell open on my server, I get their name right here. And I get my top processes listed, which is really nice. So it's Linux Bootstrap Dashboard is its full name. And you can get it on GitHub. But I'll have a link to it in the show notes too. But it's a Linux dashboard, Linux apostrophe dashboard on GitHub.
I like that. And how you had a lot of good experiences as far as like it being pretty dynamic. Like, let's say something happens to the remote machine, it seems to be pretty instantaneous.
Yeah, what's great is it's not sitting here sucking down resources when I'm not looking at it. So so when I load the page, in fact, if I refresh, you might see it. When I load the page, it builds the information out right there. PHP goes out and pulls in all these stats. So it's not like it's taking a whole bunch of resources running all the time. And it gives me, and it works on the mobile phone too, so it just gives me a way. So like if somebody says, hey, Plex is taking a long time for the video to start, I just load up this page super quick. And I say, oh yeah, boy, my CPU is just going crazy right now. Right.
That's awesome. And you've actually had it working on a mobile web page on your phone.
Yeah,
well,
on Chrome.
Definitely install that.
Yeah. And it's really easy. You just need to have Apache, and you need to have PHP curl, PHP 5 curl, and then you just drop this in your web root, and it gives you the stats. And right now, I don't have it open to the web, so I can only look at it when I'm on my LAN, but I could open it up to the web if I wanted to. It's not like you can't do anything from this page. You can only view. So people like in the conversation threads where they're troubleshooting this and building on this, they're just putting theirs online because you really, I mean, you can glean information from this, like user account names and file system mounts, but you can't change anything. So I was also thinking, this would be a great thing to throw on a VPS and throw an htaccess file on there to kind of restrict who can get access to it. And then wherever you're at, you can check on your VPS and see what it's doing without having to even open up SSH and log into it. So there's, or a Raspberry Pi. This could be really useful on something limited with it, like a Raspberry Pi where you maybe have web management set up. So it's the Linux Bootstrap dashboard. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice, Matt.
Very, very cool. It'd be kind of neat to have it on a Pi, and then you maybe, I don't know, I almost said S-cable. That really dates me. HDMI it to your television.
S-video.
S-cable.
Oh, man.
S-video, yeah.
That is,
and then you can like input it in and be like, oh, what's going on on the network today? Oh, hey, that's good to know. It's kind of, on your television.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, because why it's really nice for me is, I'm using the heck out of like SAB NZB and Plex and things like that. So sometimes things happen on the back end that just like an RSS feed kicks off or something like that I don't even know. And I recently loaded YaCy Search on that same box, and I wanted to make sure that maybe YaCy wasn't putting too much load on the machine, which it's not. And so this was a great way for me to change something and then just remember to keep it up. And I can also just keep the web page up on my desktop all day and just kind of keep an eye on it too, which is
tablet, right?
Yeah.
Boom.
Yep. Totally. So there you go. That's Linux dashboard, and there's lots of other server monitoring tools. This one I just happen to love a lot, and there's some great ones for the command line too. So it's not like you can't do the same stuff from the command line. This just makes it easy in a web page.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about a desktop spotlight this week. This is something I've been meaning to give attention to for a long time. I'm a former penetration tester by trade. I did that for a couple of years towards the end of my contracting gig, and so I made huge advantage of distributions like Backtrack and tools like Nessus and all these things that were available for Linux. Well, now there's a new one that caught my eye, and if I was out in the field doing this kind of stuff again, I think I'd grab this one. It's called Black Arch Linux. Ooh.
I like that. It sounds like Black Ops,
Exactly.
Right?
It's called Black Arch Linux. You can find it at blackarch.org. Black Arch Linux is an Arch-based distribution for pen testers and security researchers. The Black Arch packages repository is compatible with existing Arch installations, too. Oh, this is the cool thing. You can convert your existing Arch installation into a Black Arch installation. They give you a repo, you add that repo, Bob's your uncle. Now your standard Arch install is a Black Arch install. So you might be familiar with Backtrack, you might not. What do you get? Well, I'll show you. I've actually got it loaded right here in VirtualBox. Now, you wouldn't actually want to run a tool like this in VirtualBox because, hello, it's not working.
Yeah.
Because you want to be able to sniff network and stuff like that. Wow. But there we go. So I can't.
Well, see, it's even the arch with the sword. I mean, that should be on shields and on that's cool.
It's not grabbing my keyboard input though. I can click in there, but I'll reboot. So you probably actually wouldn't want to run this in a VM because you need to be able to sniff network traffic and things like that. And it's hard to do that with a virtual controller.
So in a VM environment, probably not so much. But how would you compare this to, say, like Backtrack? I mean, because it is Arch, so it's going to be a little different. The tools, obviously, are maybe a little more bleeding edge.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the advantage to something like this, is you get in there and you've got super up-to-date tools, plus you can convert an existing installation. So if you've already got Arch on your laptop, you're good to go. Oh, there we go. Now I can type in there. So
I guess the other benefit, while I'm thinking about it, is that someone can say, "Oh, it's Arch," and you can lean in really closely, pull down and put up a monocle to your eye, and say, "No, it's Black Arch."
That's right.
Yeah, right. Gotta have a monocle. Sorry.
That's right. So once you get it loaded, it gives you the live CD, because you can also just grab a live CD version. You don't have to convert an installation. I probably should have mentioned that. Mm-hmm. It gives you i3, and you have all of the tools. I mean, so many frickin' tools, from wireless cracking to Windows-specific cracking, VoIP, router, scamming, scanner, network scanners, proxies, mobile device hacking, setting up honeypots, denial of service testing, doing responsive defensive testing. Decompilers are in here. It has a huge category of password crackers are in here, and some of these are focused specifically for like particular router models. Some of these are to take advantage of like certain DNS server weaknesses. Some of these are take advantage of VNC server weaknesses. Some of these take advantage of SMTP. So there's different tools depending on what you're trying to accomplish. There's a whole suite of Bluetooth hacking tools in here as well. So if you're on a machine that has Bluetooth, you can take advantage of machines that potentially don't have a secure implementation of Bluetooth. And there's a category of backdoor software too, where if something it has a known backdoor, these programs will take advantage of it, like some of the Linksys routers out there and whatnot.
So essentially what you're telling me is that if you are an IT professional and you've been trained in penetration testing, this is business in a box.
Yeah, seriously.
Really.
Actually, you're not even joking about that. I used to take Backtrack, and now I would just take this, and I would just, the great thing about a live CD is I can convert, I can start up with a pristine, clean environment on my laptop. I don't have to worry about any other tools. I boot my laptop from that. I run from this for a day. Mm-hmm. I can do updates, all that kind of stuff, pull down the latest version of all these tools, which is always really great because people are always trying to patch to fix. And then when I'm done, I just pull the USB thumbstick out at the end of the day, and I go back to my regular install. None of those tools are there. I don't look like I'm some sort of, nefarious Edward Snowden.
Right, you don't go to a Starbucks or whatever, and unless your dongle's like shaped like Batman or something, and then obviously that's a telltale right there. But for the most part,
I don't think my dongle is shaped like Batman. I don't know for sure. I like the idea of Black Arch though, and I like the whole pen testing. I think one of the best ways you can secure yourself is to get yourself all set up, be all nerdy about your security setup, but then actually test it like an attacker would, and actually push on your soft spots and see where you're going to have something that you didn't expect. I using these types of tools in the past, I've owned some IIS boxes in a pretty major way just by using the set of tools that just come with these distributions, like nothing outside the box. And I got administrative access to the IIS servers, put documents on their desktop, like you've been owned, So these things
it's like, oh no, we're secure. We patch stuff. We're fine. We have a guy that handles that. Oh, you do, huh?
Yeah. Now the burden is on you, dear viewer and listener, not to use that for nefarious purposes.
That's right.
Use it for good things. All right, Matt, let's do the news.
The news in this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com. Matt, Ting is mobile that makes sense. My mobile service provider and Matt's mobile service provider. And Matt, if you went to last.ting.com a while ago and signed up for your Ting account where you had no contract and no early termination fees and you're only paying for what you use, I got good news because your Ting plan just got cheaper.
Nice.
Just got cheaper, Matt. That's right. Ting just slashed their data rates. And what's great about Ting is because they have no contracts, you're not locked into some sort of 2-year plan. That means you got those new rates starting your next billing period. And also, all new Ting customers get their rates. Ting is passing on their savings for the data network onto their customers directly. And this is what's so great about Ting. There's so many things I love about Ting. So go over to last.ting.com. That's going to take $25 off your first month of Ting service. Yes, $25. Or if you don't have a device yet, you can take $25 off your first device. Ting has lots of great devices. I've been perusing their recent developments. They've got some new things coming, like the HTC One Max and the HTC One Mini and the LG 2 and all kinds of really good devices. And they've been doing giveaways on the Ting blog. If you go to ting.com/blog, or do me a favor, go to last.ting.com. That way we get the credit for your visit. Click on that blog link and check out the giveaways they're doing. They're giving away right now a brand new Netgear Zing, which is that it's a MiFi hotspot access point with like an OLED screen on there that gives you, I think this thing runs Linux even. It's like this.
Oh, no kidding. So it's like triple win.
Yeah, it's totally triple win. And they're giving one away. All you have to be is a YouTube subscriber and leave them a comment on their YouTube page, and you get one. I mean, like, that's awesome, right? There's so many great reasons to be a Ting customer. Here's what Ting does. They take your messages, your minutes, and your megabytes. They add those up at the end of the month. Whatever bucket you fall into, that's what you pay. It's really simple. There's no contract. There's no early termination fee. Now, if you're stuck in an old school service provider, maybe somebody who doesn't include hotspot and tethering with your data plan, and you want to get out of that, you want to move over to Ting, well, good news, Ting has an early termination relief program. They'll give you up to $75 per device to help you lessen that blow to switch over, and you can start saving right away. Now with Ting's great rates, too, it's a better time than ever to go over to last.ting.com and try out their savings calculator. They have that linked right there at the landing page. Go in there and try it out now with that new data rate. It's probably even better than before. I mean, if you thought it had good savings in the past, now is a better time than ever. So go over to last.ting.com to get started and see why Matt and I have been a happy customer now for a long time. I'm rocking the Nexus 5 right here. I bought it from the Google Play Store. Then I bought my SIM from Ting. I activated it all through their awesome online dashboard that's way better than any other cell company's dashboard. And I know I've used all the cell phone companies in the States. This has been an awesome experience. And, one of the things that's been really great, too, and so far in my experience, I've had 3 or 4 devices on Ting, and they are staying way more updated than devices that I've had on other cellular networks. So
yeah, that's something we were talking about earlier, is that it seems like a lot of carriers, an update may become available, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to pass that down. Why do that yet? You know? And where Ting is like, hey, you know what? Cool.
Yeah, Ting, there's no reason not to, because when you buy a Ting device, you own it, and so the Ting business. So a lot of these traditional carriers, they get you by making you pay for that phone over a 2-year period, and so it's in their best interest to either have you buy a whole new phone and re-up that contract, or to stay in that phone as long as possible. Where with Ting, since it's your phone, Ting wants you to get the most value out of it as possible, and it doesn't hurt their business model in any way. In fact, it increases your customer satisfaction, which is really what they care about. So go over to last.ting.com to get started, and a big thank you to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. Woohoo! All right, well, let's talk about this report study that came out. The Linux Foundation does this about once a year. It's called Who's Writing Linux? And I say about once a year because I think sometimes it's been more like 18 months or time to time. But the Linux Foundation analyzed the online repository that holds the source code for the Linux kernel. And they also tracked the ever, as they put it, increasing complexity over the series of releases from 3.0 to 3.10. So we got who's doing the work, and we've also been tracking the complexity of that work. The Linux Foundation notes that contributions have been increasing from companies that make mobile and embedded systems such as Lenovo, Samsung, and Texas Instruments. And you can see right here, if you're watching the video version, this yellow bar represents volunteers, and then the vast majority is individual slices from companies who work on the Linux kernel. Now, they also looked at something called the gatekeepers. Contributions from individual developers must have sign-offs before being incorporated into the official kernel code. And in this case, corporate employees truly dominated, with just over 5% of approvals being done by volunteers. So for gatekeepers to get your code into the Linux kernel, 95% of those gatekeepers work for some corporate interest. It could be Intel, could be SUSE, IBM, Google, Linux Foundation, which would include Linus Torvalds with Linux Foundation, right? Linus isn't considered a volunteer, so...
No, he is paid for his efforts, and he's doing pretty well.
And they also documented the increasing size of the kernel. They say it's due to incorporation of significant new features, including file system optimized for solid-state drives. That included some growth in the Linux kernel. And support for the new 64-bit ARM microtextures used in embedded and mobile devices. And you can see it's growing pretty quick. They have this chart from 3.0 to 3.10, and you can see it's a good, steady ramp up. It's nothing crazy. It's not nuts here. We're going from like below 15,000 lines of codes to about 17,000, 18,000 lines of code since 3.0. I mean, it's not nuts.
It's not like you have to install it to a supercomputer to run.
Oh, 100,000. I'm sorry, 100,000. That's in 100,000s. But interesting study nonetheless. And if you guys want to read through it, I'll have a link in the show notes if you want to see all the pretty visuals too. If you're on the audio stream, it's worth checking out for that. Are you surprised at all that it seems to be predominantly that corporate backers are now developing Linux kernel?
I wish I was, but I'm not. I think the big reason that really, for myself anyway, is that I feel like that people have a certain level of expectation from these companies, even if you're not like a gigantic, XYZ company fan, whatever the company may be. At the end of the day, they have a vested interest in making sure the quality of the kernel is as good as it possibly can be, and so I think that they tend to forefront that, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Yeah. I think it's then augmented by volunteers, but I think that they're going to continue to be the forerunners.
I'm looking at this. It's millions of lines of code, of course. The kernel's huge. Of course, it's millions of lines of code. So part of me is a little disappointed because Linux is supposed to be this free, organic, hippie operating system in a sense that's created for the people, by the people. And it seems like so many things online that start out as that kind of eventually get overtaken by corporate interests. However, that said, I have been surprised at how even the interest of these ARM companies and these enterprise companies like IBM, how even their contributions end up benefiting everyone. Like the desktop is better because of some of the work done on ARM and some of the work done for really big iron servers. I think some of the reason we have awesome multi-core support today in the desktop is because years ago, people worked really hard to make sure that Linux could scale up to mainframe size CPU workloads, and so some of those benefits have trickled down to us. And so even though these corporate interests have been driving it, it still seems to be having the accumulative effect that we all need and want from the Linux development process. So that's good.
Well, and I also see it as a lot of people say, well, yeah, but you have, this capitalist mindset in the Linux kernel. And I don't necessarily see that as a problem because I don't feel like we've jumped shark to crony capitalism with it. I feel like it's very, very much a healthy, cooperative.
Yeah, exactly. And
everybody wins.
Doesn't it make sense that the people who are pushing forward on the hardware front, the people that are trying to push the best processor architectures and these new mobile architectures, doesn't it make sense that they should be the ones making the investment to make the Linux kernel work the way they want? And it actually turns out, when you look at it from that standpoint, this corporate interest doesn't actually seem that bad.
It really doesn't. And at the end of the day, what's equally awesome is that it's like, look, we're not going to ask you to pay some exorbitant fee to use this for your own benefit. You can start a small business with it. You can do whatever you want with it.
Their competitors can use it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's very true. All right, Matt. Well, one of my favorite projects that we've been following since pretty much its inception is the Docker project.
Oh, yes.
And they just had a new release this week. Now, if you're not familiar with Docker, think Linux containers meet BSD jails. It allows you to create an isolated environment. My favorite, when we did our episode on Docker, you can go back a couple seasons and see that, is on the Archbox, I had an Ubuntu 12.04 environment on my Archbox file system, and everything that ran in there thought it was on Ubuntu. And then you can pick that up, and you can move it to any other system. And on the back end, it uses a GitHub-like distribution system, so you can check in and check out environments. So you can build an application in this Ubuntu environment, and then you can check it into this repository. And then you can go to any Linux box and then check it out and pull it down. It can be an Arch box, a SUSE box, a Slackware box. Well, I don't actually think Docker runs on Slackware, but anything that runs Docker, you can pull down, and the application will run exactly as the developer intended it to run because the environment has been perfectly and pristinely maintained. So the Docker project is getting really close to their 1.0. They still don't consider it ready for server production. Lots of people have it in server production. Lots. I don't recommend you do it yet. By the way, Chris's official recommendation is don't do it yet. But they're getting so close. And this is the kind of stuff you want to see as they get really close to the 1.0. Version 0.8 was just released. And by the way, Docker is going to be huge for Linux. I mean, this is going to be huge for server hosting and all that kind of stuff. Now, this new version of Docker really focuses on stability and polish. In fact, this is their main feature. They say features are now taking a backseat to quality. Dozens and dozens of bug fixes, performance boosts, stability improvements, code cleanups, extra documentation, and improved code coverage. That's the primary feature in Docker 0.8. Now they're targeting one release per month, and then the first week of March they want to have 0.9. Master, they say, will always work, so you can always pull from the master. They're not basing their releases on features. Their release dates are not linked to any specific features. If a feature is merged before the release date, it gets released. Otherwise, the next merge window is only a month away. And they're going to stick with simple numbering. They say this release marks the beginning of our support for other platforms than Linux. Now, get ready for this, because I think this is, they say, it's kind of funny how they're couching this.
Right.
Because they're saying, well, really, stability is the main feature of 0.8. And by the way, Docker now works on the Mac platform.
I see what they did there.
Yeah.
I see what they did there.
Linux fans, don't freak out. Don't freak out. But yeah, now 0.8 has Mac support. They said, as many of you have pointed out, run anywhere is only useful if you can actually run anywhere. And now so here's how it works. This is kind of crazy. By the way, also a ButterFS storage driver. Docker 0.8 now ships with experimental storage driver, which uses the ButterFS file system copy on write. So that's pretty cool.
Now coming with Butter.
Now with Butter. Now here's the Mac OS support thing. So first of all, you install a Docker binary on the Mac, which forwards all commands to a remote Docker daemon. Second, you install boot to Docker, which is a super lightweight Linux VM capable of running a Docker daemon on your Mac with the smallest possible overhead. Currently, it occupies 24 megabytes of disk and boots in less than 10 seconds. This is pretty interesting because I think you do have a pretty good mix of developers who either their primary development station is a Mac with a VM running Linux, or you have folks that are developing things that people might want to run on the Mac. And now you can say, all right, well, if you want perfect functionality on the Mac, just download this Docker image. Docker has been an exclusively Linux thing, and I wonder, we didn't really cover this, but back on the 21st, it was announced that Docker had raised $15 million in VC money. They say that the company's $50 million is a Series B round led by Greylock Partners with a minority participation from Insight Venture Partners and the existing investors Benchmark Capital and Trinity Ventures. Also participating is Yahoo's co-founder Jerry Yang. Docker will use, now here's the key part, and this is why I'm wondering if maybe this Mac support is as a result of this money. Docker will use the funding to push forward the general availability of the Docker environment, develop commercial services that pair with the open source technology, and build a team to support the growing community. Now, this was their announcement on January 21st, so a few weeks ago. Docker will push funding forward towards the general availability of the Docker environment. I think that was their hint that they're moving to other platforms aside from Linux. Now, I wonder if that also means Windows.
I think that probably, if I was them, I think they're going to probably kind of do the Mac thing first because, I think Linux people freak out a little less. And if that's successful, maybe a few months down the road, and they may already be doing this, kind of pop out the Windows stuff a little bit just to kind of see what that's like. Yeah.
I mean, you would think that would actually be maybe a little more, I guess you're right. It's better to... you're going to ruffle less feathers on the Mac side, and the Docker
it's about
developers
avoiding blowback.
Yeah, and I think the Docker developers themselves probably use Macs because it's really a server side thing. So, all right. Well, we recently were talking about KDE, and now we're going to talk a little bit about Gnome. When we did our In Defense of Gnome episode, I was saying what I'm really looking forward to. In fact, one of the reasons I was switching to 3.10 is because 3.12 promised to be a really kick-ass release. And I thought, okay, well, let me get my head around Gnome in 3.10. I'll spend the 3.10 release cycle learning to live in Gnome. And then when 3.12 hits, I'll be like, my mind will be ready, right? My body's ready to accept it. Well, so we're getting some really good teases now of what GNOME 3.12 is looking like. Now, you guys, if you're familiar with the way the Linux kernel does their iterations, 2.4 is the stable version, 2.5 is the development version, 2.6 is stable, right? So GNOME kind of does the same thing. So right now we're looking at 3.11, and then 3.12 will be the stable version. More status notifications. The status menu is getting some much-needed Ethernet love. So right now, if you look at the status menu, you only see a report on your Wi-Fi, and you don't see like if your Ethernet's connected and things like that. That'll be changing in GNOME 3.10. Airplane mode improvements. Now here's one that I think people seem to be more excited about than I expected. I didn't really think this was going to be a big deal, but people are loving these jump lists. You might be familiar with these from Unity, where you can right-click on the dock.
Oh, yes.
And then you get like application options like open a new tab or whatever, right? So GNOME is integrating this support in 3.12. You'll be able to add jump lists into these. And I think it's just reading the .desktop file. So I'm not sure I think if you're already making these work in Unity, I think now they're also going to work in GNOME 3.10. I'm not sure about that aspect of it. Maybe the chat room knows.
I think I might like that.
So like now, for example, if you got Firefox open, you can right-click on the Firefox icon because I use this side dock dashboard or a dock like you do.
Right.
And right now, if I right-click on it, I only get new window, right?
That's exactly what I experienced.
Yeah. But in the future, you'll get like open new tab, open private window, right when you right-click on the dock, which will be really cool. And people have been reacting surprisingly well to this in the subreddit. I guess this is a feature people have really been wanting. So that'll be in 3.12. Another thing that's coming in 3.12 that people on the GTK side of things are super crazy excited about, I've never seen people this excited about a new feature in GTK, are these popovers. In 3.12, some of the applications like GNOME Videos and gedit are going to support these popover menus. And man, are the GTK developers super, super proud of these popovers. I'll give you a picture of it. Okay. So before, you'd have like these modal windows that would come up, and you would have to interact with this window, and you couldn't scroll objects behind it and things like that.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's not very user-friendly. Well, popovers bring what they call a huge usability improvement over the classical endless height menu in this case, with a right scroll bar, and it supports checkboxes as well. It's worth a mention that popovers not only benefit end users, but they also simplify code for developers. Dialog modals were the alternative before, and here's an example of a dialog right here. It pops up, and you just kind of have to interact with this thing, and it makes the other window behind it inactive. And they say this also works really well in touch. And it's not the main reason why they're developing, but it happens to be one of these features in GNOME where this works good with the mouse or with touch.
That's really, actually, I can see where that would be really useful, because I think it's one of those things you think, who cares, until you actually experience the endless menu, and then you're thinking, this really sucks. And so having that option to scroll through does mean that you're not doing as much bouncing around.
So like the chat room says, this is some of the stuff is features they already have. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make them any less relevant. I'm glad they're getting them. And the one last thing that World of Gnome is pointing out that will be hitting 3.12 is GNOME Sound Recorder has gotten a major refresh. The Sound Recorder is a new application for GNOME 3.12, and it looks so cool. If you're listening to the audio version, you got to go check this thing out. It is a slick looking recorder where it has a really nice look to the waveform. It has a good list. I'm looking at this and thinking for production purposes, like recording voiceovers and things like that, to just throw this application open, record something right there, and I've got it. It looks so good. So I'm really happy.
Clean.
It's going to support Opus, FLAC, MP3, MOV, and OGG Forbis, which is really great. And it's got a really nice icon, too, designed by Sam Hewitt of the Mocha Project.
Nice.
So
Good stuff.
Yeah, some really fun stuff coming to the Gnome 312 release. I'm really looking forward to looking at that one. I'm sure we'll have a review when it hits.
Well, and as we were talking about during the off-camera moments, we were talking about my recent adoption of Gnome. I'm running it behind me. I'm also running it on my desktop on Arch, and I'm going to spend a month in Gnome just to kind of reacquaint myself with it, give it another opportunity, and I'm finding that I'm actually beginning to like it.
Yeah.
And I'm really picky, so that's saying something. I mean, like I bitch about everything, so this is a big deal for me.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying it too. Although I logged back into KDE just the other day, and it's like, oh, it's actually pretty nice because I have it all custom set up still. And I did great. And I did that here earlier. I actually tried to go to KDE on the desktop just to kind of compare the two, and I think I'm going to be a Gnome guy. I'm trying to pull away from the Cinnamon. I'm trying to pull away from the XFC a little bit. Yeah, I don't know, KDE. I'm just not quite there yet. Well, I can't blame you. They're both great options.
They are.
So we talked about Linux Fest Northwest recently, but I think we should also mention Northeast Linux Fest. That's right. This year, Northeast Linux Fest will be held on April 5th at Harvard University and on April 6th. They'll have leadership training workshops on implementing open source at your job or school, always handy. And the Northeast GNU Linux Fest is an annual event promoting free and open source software and hardware. They have industry leaders come and they present, just like at other cons. And you get to see the advancements in technology using free software. So if you are in the area, there's Linux Fest Northeast for you to go to. But of course, if you are even remotely considering attending Linux Fest Northwest, we'd love to have you here. I think Matt and I we're really, I think, at least I'll speak for myself. I'm really looking forward to Linux Fest Northwest this year. We were a little stung last year, but I think this year we're going to be definitely a little more prepared. This year, I'll come hopefully not sick. And I think the equipment set up, hopefully, if the new studio's in place, will be ready. We'll talk about it more in episode 300. But if you're considering joining us, I'd love to have you there. And I think maybe we'll have to put like an Eventful or whatever one of those sites that lets us know who's coming.
Yes, I think Eventful would be good because it was just out of the woodwork. We had all these great people coming and saying, "Hi, Matt," and I'm like, "Hi," it's kind of trippy. It's like, "Oh wow, that was weird." Really great folks. It'd be nice to know individually who's coming so that we can really get out there and shake some hands and meet some folks.
It's going to be the 15th year of Linux Fest Northwest.
Wow, 15 years really?
Yeah.
Wow,
isn't that nuts?
I'm feeling really old now.
Oh, wow. I know.
Isn't that weird? Because it's like, it doesn't seem like that long ago.
I think I might have been to almost all of them, but not quite all of them.
I've been to a number of them. Yeah. I remember my first one presenting was 2003, 4. I don't remember what it was. And then I was like, okay, I kind of had my fill of that and just went as an attendee from that point on.
Yeah. Well, now this year it's going to be crazy, but hopefully it'll be good kind of crazy. All right, nice. Matt, that's all the news for this week. It's time to talk about bringing search back to the people and decentralizing and demonopolizing search. And we're going to talk with the creator of the YaCy search project, Michael Christen, here in just a minute. But first, I want to thank our segment sponsor, System76, creators of machines designed, born to run Linux. These are computers that you can buy and have a completely wonderful out-of-the-box experience. You're not going to have to fight with your hardware, and you can start playing with your Linux. This Ultra Pro is such a great machine. I've been rocking now for over a year my Bonobo, and they have a ton of great desktops, including the Sable Complete and Sable Touch. Sable Complete is a new addition. It's the Sable Touch without the touch interface, a little bit cheaper. You still get a great all-in-one Linux PC. And now check out some of their laptops. They're featuring UK keyboards, too. I didn't know you guys even needed your own keyboard. But apparently System76 is accommodating you. So go over to System76 and buy from a company who's a participant in the Linux ecosystem, helping push Linux desktops forward. And you can vote with your wallet when you grab a System76. So go over to System76.com and get yourself something nice. Tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. All right, well, I'm very happy to welcome Michael Christen to the show. Michael, welcome to the Linux Action Show.
Good morning, Chris.
Good evening to you, sir. So you're coming from Germany where it's almost 10 p.m. at night, but we recently had a lot of interest around YaCy search. because we had a member of our community start up a Kickstarter project to get it working on a custom version of the Raspberry Pi, so that way somebody could take a Raspberry Pi and have a turnkey YaCy search engine in their house. And people rallied around this in our community. He still has 9 days to go, Q5Sys, on his Kickstarter, but he's already gotten $13,000, 192 backers to make this happen. And to me, it really underscored there's a real passion and enthusiasm about peer-to-peer search. And so when I saw this, I absolutely wanted to get you on here and talk to you about your creation, because I'm really impressed with what you've made. So why don't we start with what is the reason you created YaCy Search? Did it start as something else and then become YaCy Search?
It started as something else. I wanted to learn how HTTP works, and I made a learning project and started to create an HTTP caching proxy. So this was the start. I didn't want to start a search engine at the beginning. And after I was able to fill a web cache with my caching proxy, I questioned myself, what can I do with it? So the first idea was to create a search index from that cache. And then all these peer-to-peer ideas came up. It was just a nice an idea to connect some peers, and a lot of problems came up, and we learned a lot. And but this project was so amazing that many developers came and say, we want to contribute, we want to have take some part of that. And so it was a lot of fun for many years. So it evolved and developed and came to what it is right now.
So when you say you started as an HTTP proxy, to be honest with you, peer-to-peer and decentralized doesn't really come to mind. So why was it important to you to make it a peer-to-peer decentralized search engine?
I've seen a lot of file-sharing software and tried to learn how they work. And I just wanted to create something similar, which is I programmed a lot in my past when I was a student. And so it was just another learning project. How do peer-to-peer software work? And I connected it to what I had before. So this came up naturally. It wasn't a kind of business project.
So it wasn't like a freedom crusade to free us from the evil monopolies of Google and Microsoft search?
Yeah, many people came and said, oh, this is the anti-Google and Google killer, like this. It wasn't this in the beginning, and I'm not trying to do this right now because it's not possible to do this on home computers in the same way, because we don't have fast data centers and the connection and thousands of workers. But we can create something similar, which is driven by the community, and create things that maybe Google don't want to do. So we not want to close up to Google. We want to go by with some ideas the people have.
Well, because honestly, the first thing that jumps out at me about a search engine design like this is that it's a terrific tool to combat a form of censorship. Is that important now? Is that anti-censorship resistance?
Yes. That was another idea we formulated in the beginning. It was the target to have a tool for freedom of information. So this doesn't mean only censorship resistance. What this came out as well. You can create your own index, and there's no central point which is able to censor what you have on your computer. So there is an easy way to have censorship resistance.
I'm watching a visualization of the network in real time right now, and it seems to me that even if one particular node, it seems right now there's 441 active today, even if one particular node was compromised, you'd still have to compromise the other 400. Am I correct? Is that how?
Yes.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yes. And so when I look at this, my first use of YaCy was web search, indexing the web. I have it pointing at sites that I like a lot, like the Arch Wiki, my own website, and things like that. But could I even bring it in more than that? Could YaCy perform as my intranet search engine and only be available to people on my internal network and only index like my enterprise LAN? Can it also function as like an intranet search?
Yeah, there's that search appliance market where the Google Search Appliance is one of the products. And these kind of products are in universities and in companies and doing the internet search. And that's what you can do with YaCy as well. So you can switch off all the peer-to-peer functions, and you can use your own search node for your own purpose to index all the data you have.
I've actually been pretty surprised at how low of the overhead has been in my use of YaCy. So I could see, like, even if I am indexing the web, essentially, it's not like it's putting a great strain on my machine. The project, it's 10 years old now?
Yes.
Are you happy or are you discouraged? Either one at the amount of adoption? Because I see there's about 400 active nodes right now. Is that the entire YaCy network at this point?
Yes, that's what numbers of peers which had been there with an open port. There are much more peers which don't have an open port and can't be visible. You can just identify them because they ping you here and there, but you can't see all the peers which are there and are not accessible directly. So there are actually much more, but this number is those who have an active server port where they opened their modem.
It seems like such an incredible project. I'm just surprised that there's not more folks doing it. So I hope some of the exposure that the project's starting to get now will help with that, because it seems that the larger the network, the more powerful it is, correct?
Yes, it's designed for that.
And how do you... so I've noticed there is... I don't know if discrepancy is the right word, but there's definitely a difference between what the individual peers will find. So I can set up a YaCy search engine on my network and search for how to install Apache. And I'll get a completely different set of results than maybe a viewer at home might who does the same exact search. How does that work? And isn't that actually, in some ways, an advantage to the system?
Yeah, there's a kind of academic metric which says every search should return the same result every time, but that cannot hold for YaCy because everybody can create their own search index. So the search index on every peer is different, and furthermore, it wouldn't be censoring resistant if you want that every peer has the same result.
Right.
So this is something good you want to have. You want to have different results on different peers because they have their personal view, and you can influence that by putting your own data into it.
Can I've gotten some emails about the security elements of the YaCy network. Specifically, is there a potential for a bad actor in the network to monitor all of the search results of somebody and collect them? You know, I ask this sort of as a post-Snowden revelation world where we maybe are a little more concerned about who's watching what we do. Is there a potential for, a bad node on the network to track people or inject bogus results and things like that?
Yes, you can. We couldn't find out technology to mask what you are searching on other peers, because you actually must formulate what kind of word you are searching on other peers. And we used the hashing some years before, but in between we now have clear words which are searched on the remote peers. So anonymity is difficult, and it's not possible in this way. But we have a button in the search on the search page which can restrict the search results on your own peer. So from here to there, you can put this button and get search results only from your own peer, which means that there's nothing distributed in this set of remote peers, and they cannot see what you are searching for, because this is only your private search then. So we know that it's possible to monitor searches, but we want to give you all the tools to do your own thing, right. So you can be in private as well.
So I could check this only the local index, and then I don't have to worry about that.
Yes.
Fascinating. So the other thing I notice is that YaCy has a few search modifiers that empower me to sort of craft my search in a way that honestly kind of reminds me of the way you used to be able to do it on Google until they started sort of watering down some of the features. So also another advantage to YaCy is it doesn't seem like you're particularly interested in watering down the power user features of it.
No. The search facets, what you mean is the restriction by file type or by domain and by...
Or image or even
yes.
SMB, which is fascinating. You can limit it to only resources from Samba servers.
Yes, you can index Samba services and FTP servers as well. That's something Google doesn't want to do because it's not very transparent to the users. The user expects that a web page is the result of a web search. But an FTP server returns just some, maybe a Debian package or whatever, and most people would consider it as a bad search result if they get a result like this. So they just don't put it into the search result. But there's an whole galaxy of information out there on FTP servers and, of course, on SMP servers for your intranet, for example. And we want to put this all into your search index. And you can navigate through them by selecting only those sources. So we want to have more of these search navigation features, and want to identify what is the purpose of the search and how can we restrict it in that way, so we have a nice navigation through the result set. Mm-hmm. This is another question to the answer how a good ranking is done. Another good ranking is done if you have tools to restrict the result. And Google is doing the opposite way. Sometimes they bring you weak search results because some pages doesn't contain the word you're searching for, but synonyms or completely different words where they think they are maybe better. And so for some technical for a technical purpose, sometimes Google is not very good because they just find different pages you don't want to, and the topic is not there at all. So they enrich the result, and we reduce the result by bringing up tools to reduce the result set of navigation.
Right, and I guess this kind of leads my next question is, so I mentioned that YaCy's been pretty generous in terms of its load on my machine. I've been pretty happy. If I wanted to get like a VPS or a hosted server, is there a capability in YaCy to just say, go at it and fully index it? And what is that? Is it actually, would it launch like a bunch of web crawlers, or how does that function actually work? When I think of Google, I think of a bot, and I think of it browsing every single page on the internet and following links and then bringing those into Google's index. How does YaCy do it? And could I put it on like a VPS and just have it go pedal to the metal?
There are a lot of data acquisition methods in YaCy. Okay. One of this is the web crawler, but there are others like RSS feed importers and many more tools. And we don't want it to run for its own, so you just install it and it starts to index anything on the web, because then most people think it's not controlled by them enough, and they don't. Maybe you don't know what it's downloading then. We have this functionality. It's called remote crawling. So if someone starts a web crawl, they can flag it as public crawl, where parts of the web crawl is available for other peers. And you can switch on a button and say, I want to participate in this kind of public crawls. And then your peer starts to fetch URLs from those servers. And is doing then the indexing for these URLs and sends back and feedback that you've done this. And that would be a setting where it's going on for its own when you install it, but we don't want it. You just have to push it to enable it once.
Right. And so does YaCy have the feature set to essentially turn a box into a dedicated search engine machine where it's really quite aggressive and really kind of pushes the machine? Or is it always meant to be sort of run in the background, semi-gentle?
It wasn't that gentle in the in the last years, and because of many complaints that people said, "Oh, this is eating all my resources," and we put in a lot of breaks, and actually the web crawler is very aggressively slowed down. It's very nice to target servers. It doesn't take more than 2 pages in a second from a single host, but if it has more targets at the same time, then it's doing a target balancing, and then it takes more aggressively the pages. But we have some steering options where I can say I want to start. I want to crawl only if the load on the local machine is less than 2, for example, and so you can change some settings, and it will use your machine more strongly.
Okay.
More
Very
stronger.
good. Well, I think too. There's potential. Seems like there's potential. I don't know if business models are right, but there's potential use cases for YaCy where I don't think Google or Microsoft or anybody would ever want to get into. And I think of like the Tor network. Have you given consideration to empowering YaCy to somehow be able to index the Tor network? That seems like that might be a useful feature. Is that possible?
Yes, it's possible. The Tor network appears like an intranet network, and you can switch YaCy into different modes. One is the peer-to-peer mode, and then there's the web portal mode, where you can index only public web pages, and then the intranet mode. And you can tell YaCy to use an external proxy. So you assign the Tor proxy you are running locally and say, I want to do an intranet indexing, and that's the setting you need to index the Tor network.
Okay. Oh, so it can already do it today?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Oh, okay. Wow. I could have my own Tor search engine. That's pretty cool. So, Michael, we have a lot of people in the chat room who are really excited about this, and they want me to express their thank yous to you for doing this, because I think a lot of people recognize how important this is. What, in your recommendation, is the best way for them to kind of go out and experience it sort of right away? Is there hosted versions of it out there that you're familiar with? Is it just pull it down to your box and install it? What's your recommended get set up and play with it as fast as possible approach?
I tell all the time it's so easy to install YaCy. It takes only 3 minutes, and it's available also for Windows and for Macintosh. And there's a Debian package, and there's a tar file which you can just extract and then run a start script. You should be able to run it in 3 minutes, and you can test it on your home machine right now. And that's the original purpose, to run it on your personal computer at home. But of course, you can take a virtual server or a hosted service and run it there.
Yeah, I'll have in our show notes, I'll have links to installing it on Arch and Debian. I have a Debian server, actually it's an Ubuntu server, in the back, and went and grabbed the repository for it, added it to my apt sources list, and now I just installed it, and it's staying up to date. And it was really straightforward to get up and going. So I'm really looking forward to this. And I'm also, I don't know, well, as these little powerful, more and more powerful devices come out, I'm really excited to see the possibilities for search appliances. And I think this could be a way for a whole new generation of YaCy users to get their hands on it. Is this plug in and just go to the web address, and now you have a search engine. What are your thoughts on these? Because I know you're not officially affiliated with like some of these turnkey solutions that are being working on them, but what do you think about these things?
Yes, I think we are at the edge of a new generation of devices. The new devices, the Raspberry Pi is a really weak device, and for this, and it should be possible to run YaCy on it. I tried it myself, and it's working. It's a question of how large the index may be. Mm-hmm. But in the next 2 years, all these small devices will be able to run YaCy. I'm really sure about this. And then I think more mobile devices should support distributed search as well. So we are looking in that direction to create some search clients on mobile devices, and maybe move also some peer-to-peer technology on this. But this is just like a future dream.
Wow,
we need more developers for this. We don't have knowledge about iOS machines. I can do some Android programming.
Yeah.
But this is a new field, and these machines, these mobile devices, will be able to run YaCy as well in the near future. So this will be a very interesting development then. Yeah. And maybe less people have powerful computers at home, because they think these small devices are enough to run their for example, their own cloud. I have my own cloud running at home. I really like this software. This is also a very important tool to have. Yeah. And so there will be an interesting development in the near future.
Absolutely. I like it. Really excites me. I think this is going to be so great. And I know this one in particular, right now it's a little tight on the Raspberry Pi. Q5Sys is the one who's behind this. He's in our chat room right now, and great member of our community. He says he's doing a custom version of Puppy Linux to get the memory usage down. So is it really, it's about memory, not so much about storage for the index? Is it more about RAM?
Yeah. It's the software needs a lot of RAM to run, because you can take a lot of performance out of the RAM if you have it. Uh-huh. you also need storage because this is not distributed computing. This is distributed storage. That's the main thing about it. And so it would be nice to have on the SD card enough space.
Yeah.
And we want to put some more functions to automatically scale with the scales which is available. So we are doing this, or I'm doing this in the next weeks to make the Raspberry Pi project possible, to run on a limited space. And I was excited to see that the people of Raspberry Pi have a lot of experience with this device and experience with the Puppy Linux software. And maybe this was a missing keystone in the usage of the Raspberry Pi. I tried to turn down the Raspbian so it doesn't use so much of the resources, and maybe the Puppy Linux is
maybe a little more
element in this.
Yeah. Well, I think our Skype connection is, of course, you're over in Germany, so I'm thankful it's working as well as it is. But Michael, is there anything else you want to touch on before we go? And is there anywhere you want people to go if they maybe want to get involved with the project?
I want to say thank you to the users, because you said they thank me for the software. I thank you to use YaCy, and you are the one who are running YaCy. It's not me. This is a distributed system, and you are the one who are running YaCy. And I would like to say also we need more help. We need more developers. Developers are very welcome. And please look at our development page. I just posted it on the Twitter account, yassi_search. And please have a look, and maybe you help and you become a YaCy developer.
Very good. So that's yassi_search on Twitter. And you can also find the website at YaCy, YaCy.net. Well, Michael, thank you very much for coming on the Linux Action Show, and thank you very much for taking this on. I mean, it's incredible what you've been able to accomplish, and I'm going to be I'm a YaCy user now. I'm going to be running it forever. So I hope you continue working on it for a long time. Thank you very much for coming on the Linux Action Show. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. But Matt, I was thinking, before we got out of here, maybe we should read some emails. What do you think?
I think it's a good plan.
All right. Well, Kim writes in. She says, hi there. First things first, I just love your show. I live in Denmark, and I watch your show every time I come home from work on Mondays. I get to click on YouTube and enjoy a cup of Java while relaxing to a good show from you two guys. So thumbs up. Now, on the point of Yalla, she says, I just got my Yalla phone. She or he, I'm not sure. She says, I just got my Yalla phone from Finland a couple of days ago, and I love it. I remember a show some time ago when you mentioned the Nokia N900 and MeeGo. Well, now the guys from the old Nokia team have broken out this and made this lovely phone with a new MeeGo-like interface called Sailfish. I hope you'll take a look at this special phone soon. Regards, Kim from Denmark. Yeah, I think, we want to. I'm hoping we see one at Linux Fest Northwest. I don't think there's a single carrier here that offers it.
Not that I know of, no. And if they do, I think they'll probably be exclusive for some time. So.
I think when I talked to Ting, they're interested, but they're kind of waiting to see where it goes. And they said the same thing about the Ubuntu phone. They're big supporters of the idea, but they're kind of interested to see where it goes. Mm-hmm. So Kim, hopefully soon you'll see something from us. But I'd love to see an image floating around. So one of the things the Ubuntu Touch guys did that made it a little bit easier for just general enthusiasts to just try it out is they made images for existing devices, and so it was possible to get my hands on it right now. I flashed. I think it was Galaxy. I can't remember what. It was a Nexus something. I'd love to see something like that for Yalla. And if that does exist, let me know. Right into the show. Just go to Jupiter Broadcasting and click the contact link and submit your question. There's a really good reason to join us live. Michael, who we just talked to from YaCy, is in the chat room right now answering questions. That's so awesome. So
that is so awesome, yeah.
Next week is Linux Action Show episode 300. It's the big 300, and I'd love to have you join us live over at jblive.tv. We are live at 10 a.m. Pacific, which works out to be 1 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. UTC over at jblive.tv. You can go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get it in your local neck of the woods. All right, Matt, next email comes from Elroy. He said, I had an idea for an on-location shoot. Get ready for this one, Matt.
Oh, this ought to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
He says, I wonder why I thought of Matt when I heard about this story. I bet he'd have fun there, and then he might even come back 20 pounds heavier, and he links us to the Bacon Conference. It's a bacon festival, Matt.
probably 40 pounds heavier.
Let's see. Let's go look at pictures of the Bacon Festival. Oh my gosh, this couple got married at the Bacon Festival, and they're walking under an arch of bacon for their wedding.
Dude, how did I not know this when I was getting married? That's
this is
awesome.
in Iowa. This Iowa couple decided to tie the knot this weekend at the Bacon Festival at the State Fairgrounds in Des Moines.
Dude, that is epic.
So that would be the perfect spot for a Linux Action Show on location.
Renew of vows, right?
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
All right, one last plug. Last chance to go over to the Linux Action Show show notes and submit your how-to request. We've been collecting this for the last couple of weeks. We'll be reviewing some of this in episode 300, and it's embedded in the show notes. We also have a link. Just tell us about the how-to you'd like to see on the Linux Action Show, or if you'd like to see how we did something that we've covered in the past, you can submit that too. Matt, is there anything you want to point folks to throughout the week in between shows?
Not at this point. One suggestion I was going to throw out to you guys is I'm looking to I have a little extra time right now, and I'm looking to basically create some value for folks in exchange maybe to generate a little extra income. I need ideas from you guys of things that I can do, maybe in video, maybe in text, that you guys would find of value that might be of interest. So shoot me an email, Matt at Jupiter Broadcasting, or you can actually just maybe start a thing in the subreddit and start something there.
Very cool, very cool. I will point folks over to episode 26 of Linux Unplugged. We had a representative from the Mate desktop project, or Mate, and we did some Mate myth busting. We talked about how the Mate project is working to implement GTK3 support. They're trying to modernize Mate without taking away some of the classical desktop conventions it brings from the GNOME 2 desktop era. And I just thought such a great chat we had. And we also talked about an error we made in last week's Linux Action Show and some of the steps we're going to take to try to make sure that doesn't happen again.
It was actually a really good episode. I suggest listening to it because there's a lot of details in there. You might be like,
Linux Unplugged is the ultimate companion to this show. You're only getting half of the action experience if you're not listening to Linux Unplugged. So go check out 26. Right. You don't have to start at any particular number, but 26 was we just had some good episodes recently.
I think 26 was probably one of the best ones in a while, just because it not only addressed things that needed to be addressed, but we were able to really dive deep into the whole Mate situation. Yeah,
I came away with a very different perspective on Mate or Matey than before we started that episode. Like, my mind was changed during the episode, which is pretty cool. And you can also contact the show. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com, click on the contact link, choose Linux Action Show from the drop-down, or even better, go to linuxactionshow.reddit.com. That's the show's subreddit. Very active community over there. Lots of really great discussion, and you can also help vet things before they make it into the show. Vote up, comment. I'd like to call for a refocusing on news. All the other community discussions and stuff are still great and fine. I just want more. I want to focus on news and content that you want to see in the show. So you can do that by submitting links. You can do that by voting, and you can do that by commenting with your insights on the stories. And we keep all of it over at linuxactionshow.reddit.com. I forgot the number, but it's like one of the top 500, top 200, top 100 subreddits. I can't remember anymore. But it broke some sort of record. It's doing good. So and
I also think that, for existing news stories, like say someone submits one, if you guys want to help vet that in the comments, that's awesome. I mean, that really helps us out.
So. Very much so. Again, we love a lot of smart people out there, so it's good to get their insights and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. I love that terminal. Look how good that looks. Look how good that looks, chat room. That looks good. That's a 1080p. It's a 1080p terminal, y'all. 1080p is in my terminal. That's what I got. This is kind of big. It's breaking right now as we're doing the show. It started last night, but it looks like the Debian project is coming down on their init debate. It looks like we're finally getting, and I think, unless something just changed, I think it's systemd. I think the final word is systemd, and Debian's actually making a decision. But I just got burned last week for leading with a story from the mailing list, so I didn't do it this week, even though it's kind of a huge story. But I just kind of said, screw it. That's huge.
Well, just the making a decision was kind of a thing to where it's like, wow. I mean, I honestly thought that explains the eclipse, that explains the rise in the tides, and
So this is so much bigger than Debian. This is about the unification of the core of Linux and making application development for Linux simpler and bringing features to all Linux distributions that use systemd that every server-grade operating system should have. C groups are, in my opinion, absolutely mandatory. Socket activation is also a massive, massive feature. It's going to allow for, when you combine socket activation with Docker, the density we're going to see now on cloud cloud deployments of Linux is going to go dramatically up because you can literally have Docker instances spin up on demand. You can have a virtual server with thousands of Docker images, and the moment you connect to the port, that's when the Docker image starts. It doesn't use memory until that point. That's absolutely huge. Being able to have a common init system across all distributions, upstart distributions excluded, is massive. And a lot of people are worried because it's it's not exactly the Unix philosophy. Although Systemd is actually made up of a lot of individual components working together, so you could argue that point too.
Arguably, I said the same thing about Pulse Audio. I mean, like, ever since, people always rip on it and whatnot, and it certainly had its shortcomings over the years, but at the end of the day, it did something that I could do in other operating systems, because back in the day, audio and Linux sucked. I mean, it's like, okay, I want to be able to route Skype ringing through one device, and I want to have music coming through another or whatever, and it's...
Yeah.
You could do it. It could be done manually, but it wasn't pretty. And Pulse Audio allowed me more of a dynamic approach to it. So, at the time, I was kind of happy with it.
Yeah, but it looks like, I'm reading the chat room right now. It's not official. I mean, we're not confirmed yet, but it is definitely going that direction. So hopefully by the time we do Linux Unplugged on Tuesday, we'll have a final answer.
Monkey suit porn. Oh wow, yeah. Well, maybe after we do our initial showing of it, who knows? Monkey suit porn.
Oh boy.
That'd probably be a thing, and I'm quite honestly, people would be paying me to put it back on. So I don't know.
Chicka, wow. I got the Chromebook, and I've been using it for a couple of weeks. I got it right now. It's kind of working perfect. So we have these two theater seats in our living room. And in between the two theater seats, we have like this little armrest credenza thing that opens up, and the Chromebook fits right in there. I'll tell you though, I hate the trackpad on that Chromebook. But all right, so here we go. I'm going to do a little unboxing here. See, in this, what could be in this envelope, chat room? What could be in this envelope? And I open it up, and it is dun 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 dun. It is a StarTech USB 3.0. Well, that's not the right one. Hi there. I'm over here in the mountains all of a sudden, and this
hello.
It's a USB 3.0, and I think the Chromebook has USB 3.0.
I'm sure it does.
Ethernet adapter for the Chromebook because there's no Ethernet on that thing.
Seriously?
It's just Wi-Fi.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what I was trying was so there it is. So it's pretty small.
Okay.
I wanted to play Steam streaming on the Chromebook.
Mm-hmm.
And it works, except for as soon as like somebody turns on the microwave or something like that, any kind of Wi-Fi interference, and all of a sudden your game just starts dropping out. Totally. So guys, my icon pack is sexy as hell, and you need to understand how sexy it is too. This is the Numix icon theme, and it is super hot. Check out all of the awesome icons. It is hotness. Well, of course, then not so much in there, but and we might be chatting with these guys in the future because they are setting out to make a theme pack for GNOME that is beautiful. And also, I know a lot of you don't like that new GNOME integrated title bar. Well, here it is. Here's files. Look how tight that looks. It's not a big lip, right? It's not taking up a whole bunch of room. In fact, it's actually more compact than the old pre-integrated title bar style.
And that's coming about through your theme?
Yep, that's Numix. The Numix theme. Numix. I like it a lot. It is. Whoa. Did you see that? Shenanigans? Whoa. Apparently, all of a sudden now. Whoa.
Oh, that's cool. So
I know.
I want transitions like that in real life, but I want like just regular movement, but it's like a fight scene looking thing. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool.
Something Matrixy. That's all I'm asking for. All right. So no, next week we're doing last with the 70s porn music. That is mandatory. For 300, we should just have 70s porn music the whole way through. And that'll be the big announcement. So a big announcement is we're doing 300 from 3 on out music all the time. Okay, I think I'm still recording. If everybody's done screwing around in the chat room.